let's just go to the obvious extreme one, which is Weibo, right? This is the team where on paper, a lot of people thought they shouldn't even be at Worlds. But at the same time, as they showed in the split, they are one of the rare teams that could even beat like a JDG. Like the problem with this team is they have this at times a crazy ceiling, but also sometimes an appalling floor. What do you think of this team's chances?
So Weibo are the epitome of play to the level of their opponents. They are 4-1 in best of ones versus JDG across this year. They only played them in regular seasons. They only had 2 best of 3s. And one of them, I believe, was their very first best of 3 of the year, right in the start of spring. But like Weibo have like the only winning record against JDG in the entire world right now. And that's absurd when you consider that they lost in summer to IG, who are like on a 7 best of 3 loss streak or something insane like that. This team, they just lose their minds against lower tier opposition, and they turn it on against when the game is like really, really good at the same way. Weibo's kind of story, I suppose, and their expectations for this year. If you listen to a lot of the Chinese community, and I guess I was on the broadcast too, our opinion of what Weibo should have been this year, we had JDG, Top Esports, and Weibo, who were like the real super teams. You look at them on paper and you think, wow, incredible names. But there were a lot of players who have been kind of displaced from their former team. So there was a bit of a question mark saying, are they going to succeed away from, say, Xiaohu away from RNG, Scout away from EDG, you had Knight away from Top Esports and going to JDG. There was a lot of that in the LPL, to the point where we were questioning what happens when they're away from kind of like their home territory, I suppose, from the last few years. But in particular with Weibo, you had, 4 international title holders, and you had Light as the AD carry, who was like, well, he's been to Worlds and he looks really good as well. So on paper, this team was meant to be stacked as absolute hell. And particularly when you have a tip player like the Shy on your team, you have a lot of Chinese fans which are going to support them. You have a lot of people who kind of follow him for his 2018 days as well. And they come out of the Rift swinging, and they take down JDG, and they immediately flip-flop game after game after game. And it is really hard to tell which version of this team turns up every day, because even in game 1 of a best of 3, the Shy will be solo killing twice a game, and then the next game he's going like 0-6 because
sometimes
he doesn't
in
know
the
how to
same
play
game
side lanes.
he'll solo kill and then just immediately die right afterwards for no conceivable reason.
I think if you go back and watch Top Esports versus Weibo in regional finals, that 5-game series, you see the best and the worst of the Shy, where he gets like a 1v3 on Renekton, then dies over and over and he goes from like 3-0 to like 3-5 or something like that. It is utterly sublime. I kind of likened him and Ebby a little bit to a similar kind of extent this year, where it's like, I don't really know what they're doing right now. I'm sure they understand what they're doing in their head, but the rest of the team doesn't understand what they're doing in the rest of their head. And that's the big problem there, where you could kind of see the Shy being left alone on a side lane, and the rest of the team, like, not really knowing what to do with him there. The big change that came in, I guess, later into playoffs a little bit, but no, this is mainly in regionals, actually, was there was a big shift from spring to summer because Casa was subbed out of the roster and Weiwei came in, who has not been to an international tournament before, fairly new player, and he was kind of, put between all of these international title holders and said, look, you gotta outdo Casa. Not that hard because Casa's had a really bad year so far. And he really helped kind of shore up some of these kind of like mindset differences between the team. There were a couple of games against Top Esports, in the regionals where he was playing stuff like Poppy, and he was everywhere, absolutely everywhere. And that really helped Weibo kind of overcome some of like that mindset mismatch in a couple of their games. And if they can kind of use that to kind of like duct tape their team together so far for long enough that they can actually get their mentality on the same page, like God smite me down if I'm wrong, but there's like a certain amount of hope I have for this team.
Oh
like,
my God.
I hate it, but I do somewhat believe in this team if they can get their shit together with Weiwei, like being that facilitator, like just a tiny bit.
When he says that, Monty, ironically, that would actually make a lot more sense for Evie, if that's what Evie thought. If he thought he was the Shy, now I'd understand a lot about how he plays. My problem is, like, he's not, he's Evie. It's like that joke they always make. That one of the ways I knew League and MOBAs weren't for me, unlike FPS games, is I actually did, especially when I used to start playing them, I used to have that massive problem where you forget which character you are in the team fight. The joke is, like, I think Evie just does that in, like, real games, man. I think he's like, oh, look at this, I'm fucking on, and they're like, bro, you're the top player. Like, what the fuck? Oh, it's dead. What the hell? I thought I was the one getting the penalty on Zeri. Like, nah, it's the ADC, mate. Oh, shit, whatever.
Yeah.
I appreciate your enthusiasm for Weibo. They feel kind of the same way that you might consider D+ to be a dark horse, because you look at the names, you're like, oh,
they
man.
can flip against any team in this tournament. They can genuinely flip, and it terrifies me.
Here's the
This is-
problem, Monty. I'll go one further because I've always said I'm not just even a fan of the Shy. I'm a stan of the Shy. It's one of the only players I'm a stan of. And the reason I know I'm a stan, Monty, is I watched them all year. They're not a good team. They actually fundamentally just play badly at times. Some of the players have no synergy, but I still, in my mind, it's not even that I believe you. I just want him to win. So I'm just going to say, fuck it. I hope they do. I don't even think they will. I just want him to, so fuck it. I don't care anymore.
The thing is about some of these, the Weibo wins over JDG is like, it looks impressive on paper, but if you actually remember some of those games, Ruler was like running it down in one of those games. He was happy gaming to the maximum.
Oh, was that one of his Zeri games where he just like just jumps off the wall? And, I remember that. Yeah.
Wait, nothing will ever beat though, even though it was totally unintentional. That like stupid Twitter meme of Invictus Gaming all those years ago, with like Ning or whatever, where it was like about how he wasn't negative gaming in that experience. That is still
no someone's experience. Yeah.
I think with Weibo it would be hilarious to see them do well. Obviously, they have a lot of good players on this roster. It's just so inconceivable watching them play that they could actually win this thing. Although it was mildly inconceivable that IG won Worlds that year. Not to this degree, but
see more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.